Hi, my name's Sharnee Bennett from Adelaide, Australia, and today I just wanted to go through a little bit left of field again, a video on how to build an app. It's something that I've been doing the past, I guess, 6 to 7 months, and I've learned so much, and I just wanted to kind of share it with my YouTube channel in the event that it might help someone else going through a similar exercise. We've been using the lean process, I think that's what it's called. Probably need to validate that. We've been using the lean startup method as part of the project, and I have literally been learning as much as I can about lean startup because it just makes total sense. I mean, I've worked in building IT systems for, nearly, I guess, 15, 18 years, and we used to call that agile computing, but it's really now about how to start building systems as leanly as possible without spending a whole ton of money and making a huge investment. So I just wanted to go through each of the stages just to give you a bit of an idea of how you take an idea that you have right through to execution and some of the things we've done along the way. Okay, so the first thing is the idea. Okay, now some people might say that is actually the hardest. The hardest stage in the whole thing is actually coming up with the idea. But if you think about it, as you go about your day-to-day, let's just say I'm just going to use coffee as an example. When you go and get your coffee in the morning, you might go, I'd really love to pre-order this coffee as I'm walking from my office down to my local coffee shop. So you could always say to your coffee shop, okay, I'm going to build an app so that I can pre-order my coffee before I leave my office, and that order comes through to you and they can accept it on an app. Just using that as an example. So coming up with the idea is the hardest part. And what you really want to be looking for is solving a problem. Okay, there's no point coming up with an idea that's really flooded in the market. There's heaps of people already doing it. It's just no point. There's no point competing in a pond of big fish that are already doing what you want to do. You want to come up with something that not very many people are doing. So once you come up with an idea, you've identified a problem, you want to see who else is doing it. So that's where you really want to do some research and identify, are there any players that are currently in that space? And is there a gap that you and your business can potentially fill? So by the time you get to the end of the idea phase, you really want to have a very sort of clear, it's a go or no go decision that you're looking for. And if it's a yes, then you probably are okay to proceed. And if it's no, then you just scrap the idea and try and come up with something else that might be a better fit for what you love and what you're doing. Okay, so when we came up with our idea for our app, it took us about, we came up with the idea and we kind of sat on it for 2 months. And over the 2 months, we realized that there was a really big gap in the market and no one was doing it. And we were just getting more and more information through here that said that our idea had some merit. And it was just such a strong case to do it. We almost had to do it because there's just nothing here. But we did sit on the idea and we nearly didn't do it. We just so I guess my encouragement is to work through this stage as quick as you can and get to the point where you've got some idea of a yes or no decision against your idea. Okay, and that's actually hard. Getting to that point is actually a challenge. But once you get to that point, the next thing you want to look at is proving a product fit. Okay, now this is not the time to start building anything or getting programs on board or anything like that. What you want to do is validate. I guess you want to kind of build the concept and design of your app to say this is how it will look and work and feel, and then you want to get some validation that that's going to be suitable and workable. Okay, so how we did this was we actually used a tool called Mockups, and if you go to www.mockups.com, then you can use this tool. It's fantastic. It actually allows you to build the app in this tool. You can actually have all the buttons working and clicking through, and you can have a lot of fun. It's really cool. So you can actually design your pages of your app and what's going to be on each page, and then you can actually make the buttons click. So it's actually a working prototype. And I found in doing that, we did about 3-4 versions in the end of our concepts because if I think back to how the concepts, it took us about a month to get through this stage. But by the time I did the first set of mock-ups and the time I did the last set were beautiful. The first set were really flawed, full of problems and full of holes, and they certainly weren't workable. But at the time I thought, oh yeah, this is cool, but it just really wasn't. And I'll tell you how I got to that point. The first thing is I came up with concept iteration, I guess 1. And then I actually got the courage to go to Adelaide University here in Adelaide. I went down to the Bar Smith Library, which is full of students, and I got the courage to go up to 120 students, and I asked them what they thought of the app. I actually got them to click on all the buttons, and I stepped them through the app. This is before anything was built. It's not a proper working app. It's all just paper documentation and also the working documentation. And I went up to 120 students. I said, what do you guys think? And they gave me some amazing feedback. And through that process, I circled that round about 3 to 4 times, just making sure I got it right. And each time I went back and talked to another 20 students, and I even came across the same students who'd sort of seen the first set compared to the last set. And, that was really good, having that continuity. But ultimately, by the time you get to the end of this phase, you've got a really, really good idea of what is going to work for your app. And I can tell you, this is going to save you a lot of money if you get clear on this before you start building. Because once you've built it, any sort of change is going to cost a lot. So out of this phase, we basically knew that we had a final design, or we call it really a concept design, that really stood up to the test of our testing and on the students that we did. And we also built an inspiration pack. Now, you don't have to do this. I mean, I'm a bit of a over-the-top sort of person, go into a lot of detail, and I like to think everything through. But when you do an inspiration pack, it's basically just looking at the type of brand and design that you'd like to have for your business, and looking at what other players are doing out in the market and saying, okay, this is what these guys look like. I want my brand to look like this. So through that process, we looked at the colors, the logos in the app, the icon. It's really important to get a really compelling app icon, because you've got to stand out at the App Store, you've got to stand out in the Android store. So having the design of that icon is really super important. And then you've also got the navigation icons within the app that need to be designed, and you've got the overall look and feel within the app. So we just put together an inspirational pack that talked about branding and design and name and icons. And we also had a set of concept maps which talked about how the app would function itself. And this work is what's going to save you all the money downstream. Through that, these are really your 2 outputs out of this phase, which feed into our next phase, which is build. Okay, so I'm just going to take this off now and talk about the build phase. Okay, so through this process, we engaged quotations. Now, I'm not sure how many of you are familiar working with an outsourced Indian environment, but where possible, we will try and work with international programming staff just to help with, I guess, the way in which we work, that the Indians work 24/7, and our stuff can just get built a lot quicker and a lot cheaper. So we go to a tool called Elance. I don't know if you guys have heard of that, but I go to Elance, www.elance.com, and we put up a request for quotation. And I think overnight we got about 48 suppliers all around the world, including Australia, came back to us and said, we really want to work on your project. It sounds really exciting, and I want to partner with you guys. And it was just a really hard task to narrow down 48 vendors. But just a quick note on how you narrow them down. Any supplier that is not a gold supplier on Elance, just eliminate them. At this stage in the game, you cannot be working with unproven suppliers. So that's just going to save you a lot of time and effort if you just don't go with any unproven vendors. And anyone that has low or no earnings on Elance, you just eliminate them straight away. Then we look at, I guess, any any supplier that has a good team. So you're looking for 40 plus resources most of the time. Ideally, you don't want to be working with a one-man band. You will be let down by one-man bands that you choose to work with. You're better off working with teams because they have backups and redundancies within their teams, and your project is not unnecessarily jeopardized by the team itself. And then I guess just establishing a dialogue and a rapport with these guys to sort of try and work through how to take your two deliverables that you have at this point, which is essentially your concept design and your brand design. So what you're really entrusting with these guys is how can you make your design a reality. So it's really important to partner with the right person that's going to do your project justice, work quickly, work reliably, and do it as efficiently as possible. There's one other thing that we do through here is we look at the minimum viable product. So when you're building an app, you can go, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to do this. You start thinking of, 10,000 things that you want to achieve. So let's just say you want to do 10 things. To get a minimum viable product, you might be fine just to get the first 4 off the ground. And that way you've got, a minimum viable product to work with to prove market fit, and you're not sort of spending a whole heap of money to get to that point. So at this point, really the key is having a minimum viable product that you can get built reliably. That's the key thing you're looking for during this phase. So once you get to that point, hopefully you got those notes down. Once you get to this phase, then you want to prove your market fit. Okay, now just one point on revenue model here. You do want to consider your revenue model at the time of your idea. I mean, if you can't clearly link your idea or your app to a monetization, what we call a monetization model or revenue model, there's really no point. There's no point working for free, and there's no point spending all that money if there's going to be no likelihood of return. So I just want to go through some elements of the revenue model before we go into market fit. Okay, so let's look at ways that you can monetize an app. Okay, so there's really 4 key ways you can monetize an app. The first one is, and I'm going to say it the way in my thoughts on the importance of the order. I ideally want to find a revenue model that is out of the app. Okay, now I don't want you to get confused with this whole concept, but so I might go through all 4 first and then go back to it. The second way of monetizing an app is some sort of in-app purchase. Okay. The third is some form of in-app ad model. Okay. And the fourth and least preferable is user pays. Okay, so there's something like less than 10% or less than 20% of the apps in the Apple Store right now you have to pay for them. It really does not look like that's going to be a viable model. So the whole process of somebody paying 99 cents an app or $3 an app, just forget about it. People don't want to pay for anything, and I think this is a struggle. So, for us, we eliminated this as an option very early on in our analysis of what would work. So let's just work up another step. So in-app model, there's 2 ways you can monetize in the app. First of all, you can monetize when a customer clicks on something within the app. And you can also monetize when one of your suppliers that's in the app, when they pay you to get preferential treatment within the app. Okay, so we call that, one is a customer click, and the second one is a merchant pays. Okay, so even if you go the lifetime customer click value, so every user that visits our app, if they generate $5 of ad revenue, okay, so they've clicked, let's just say each click is $1. For the whole time they visit your app, they click 5 times, that's $5. That means each customer to your app generates $5. If you get, let's just say 1 million users that visit your app, then, 1 million users download your app, that's $5 million. Okay, so hopefully I've got you with that logic. So each user, we have 1 million people download our app, $5 for a lifetime customer value for in-app clicking, that's $5 million, okay? The second way we do it is when the merchant pays. So let's just say, I'm going to use a different number just so it looks a little different. Let's just say that the lifetime customer value is $10. So, lifetime merchant value. And what that means is, let's just say a merchant A, they have come to us and they said, we want to put a banner ad within the app. So when we did the product fit here, we actually some of our pages, we just put a little tiny little banner ad in some of the pages. So 2 of the pages had a little banner ad. And they were very subtle. They were not annoying, because banner ads within an app can be extremely annoying, especially when you're trying to click around and it won't let you click outside of that the banner ad. So I really tried to subtly build that banner ad into the design. But I certainly suggest building the banner ad into your design, because later on you will want to monetize, and these numbers add up very, very quickly, especially when you get 1 million users to your app. So let's just say we've got, we'll say in this particular example, we've got 1 million merchants. I won't use that actually. We'll use 100,000 merchants that are on the app. So in that case, we add a 0. That means that we would have a lifetime revenue of $1 million if we have, for each merchant that comes on, they generate $10 of revenue. That means we've got $10 times by 100,000 merchants equals $1 million. So here we would have a very clear monetization model of 5 million from our customer clicks and $1 million from our merchant pays. Okay, so this is, again, when you're building this, you just want to be subtle. Do not be annoying, and just really just build it into our design seamlessly. That's the only recommendation I can do there. And if you can avoid it, don't. But really, this is usually where your monetization strategy is going to settle, somewhere between here or here. An in-app purchase is when you might have a free, I guess Viber does this pretty well. You use Viber for free, but then you download stickers, and they're pretty stupid little cats and things like that. But, you can buy a bunch of cat stickers for $1.99, and I'm pretty sure that over time that would be, adding up to quite a considerable amount by the time you look at the full Viber audience. So here you get your initial use for free, but there's some sort of incentive for you to buy within the app, okay? Now, we haven't gone down that path per se, but it's certainly something to consider. Just for outtake's sakes, I want us to have a bit of a laughing match at the end of this, okay? Okay, so where was I? Basically, the revenue model where you identify an out-of-app transaction that you can leverage onto. Now, I'm going to use 2 different models because there's 2 different ways you can monetize this. First of all, a one-off fee when someone joins your network, okay? So usually that's related to your number of users or your number of merchants. Okay, so in our particular example, and I've kind of calculated this earlier, if we've got 5 million users that have downloaded our app and we have 200,000 merchants, okay? Now, in this model, let's just say that for every user that visits your app, that you generate $1 of out-of-app revenue, okay? Then I'm doing this simply because of it's easier for me with the maths. Then 5 million users times by $1 equals 5 million, okay? So that means we generate $5 million from our users that are downloading the app, okay? And it's nothing to do with person in the app, and it's nothing to do with the merchant on the app. It's a downstream transaction that's more to do with the network that these guys belong to. The second way is with a merchant, and there's really two models that come off of a merchant. The first one is a one-off fee to join the network. Okay, so I'm going to use the example of $10 or one-off fee to join your network. Okay, now I might need some help with the maths. That's 200,000 times by $10 equals 2 million. Am I right? It says? Yep. Okay, so we've got 2 million of one-off merchant revenue coming from an out-of-app downstream transaction. Okay, so not visible to anyone in your app. The second one, and this is really bizarre how big this can end up being. Again, the numbers are absolutely nutty. Let's just say $5 a month. Let's just say that because of the number of users that you've got coming to your app, that you can demonstrate to your merchants that that's going to bring them some sort of additional value to their business, that you can justify spending $5 a month. Okay, that only works out to be $60 a year. Now, I don't know how many of you are familiar with how much it costs to put an ad in the Yellow Pages, but it's pretty expensive. So $60 to belong to a really large network like this is certainly not the end of the world. Okay, now $5 a month for 200,000 merchants adds up to $11 million a year, which means that if you're going for a number of years, let's just say you do this for 5 years and you don't grow, which is not going to happen, then that ends up being 55 million in 5 years. Okay, and that's pretty much what you want to achieve out of your monetization model. And this could apply to, you've only got 10,000 users, or it could mean you've got a million or 10 million users. You just really don't know. At the moment, they're saying that the app market is going to absolutely explode. There's currently 1 million apps for download in the App Store, and by 2017, they're suggesting that will be 4 million. So one of the biggest growth markets is actually apps. It's huge. And that's really why I'm going through this, I'm spending so much time going through these stages, because if you're anything like me, I've spent months and days and weeks researching this and being coached in it and spending money on people. And, I just really wanted to share everything I know for anyone who's going through a sort of similar process where they've got an idea and they want to turn that into a working app quickly and without spending a fortune. So once you've got your revenue model sorted out and you've done that sort of iteratively through here, then we move into things like market fit. Okay, so that's where you might go out. You know how I talked about before going out to 120 students? What we probably want to do is go out to 100 businesses. And we basically want to run our monetization model past them. Okay, so let's just say we decided on, any number of those models that we just talked about, but let's just say we use the model where each merchant pays $5 or $10 to come on board. Okay, so if you're charging $10 per merchant to come on board, and you approach 100 businesses, and then out of those businesses, let's just say 60 of them were prepared to pay and 40 were not prepared to pay. Okay, what you really want to do is then work out why they weren't prepared to pay that, and just see if you can address those through your design or your idea or your market fit or your revenue model. And you want to try to get to the point where this is really sitting at about 80-20, if possible. But what you're really trying to do here is provide a clear revenue model that on a probability basis, you're going to get more take up than less take up. Because that's going to say to you that there's definitely a market. And that's really where scale comes in, and I might as well do this in the same one. Once it works for 100 businesses, it works for 1 million businesses. If you can prove take up through here, you're solving a problem, you're in a market that no one else is in, you've got a clear monetization model, once you put it out there, you've got businesses grappling all over themselves to get on board, then you know you're onto a winner and you know that it's going to be worthwhile. And then it's just a matter of scaling. I mean, in our particular example, we have an app that has global significance. So we're rolling our app out globally. But, your app might be something you use here in local Adelaide, or might be something you just use in Australia. I mean, there's so many different things you can do, and it really depends on what your particular app is trying to solve. So when you're scaling, I'll just put, I mean, again, this is probably where my core business sort of comes in now, is I help businesses get traffic to Facebook, okay, or monetize Facebook. So really, I try to help businesses get business from the 1.4 billion people that are on Facebook each month. So if you've got scale, you're really looking at some sort of acquisition plan that involves acquiring users and businesses from Facebook, YouTube, or Google. So that really then becomes a normal day-to-day marketing strategy to try to make your app go viral, I guess, around the world. So that's pretty much it, guys. This is a lean startup process. It's certainly taken me some time to get my head around all of this. I am not trained in lean startups, but as part of my team, we've got some guys that specialize in this, and I'm really learning how to do things quickly, adeptly, and how to eliminate problems quickly within the process that we're going through. So we've got the idea, market fit, build, idea, product fit, build, market fit, and then revenue model and the scaling. And you know, I really hope that this is of some help in getting your idea off the ground. And yeah, drop me a note and let me know how your idea goes, because I'd really love to hear how it's going. I certainly know it's challenging, but yeah, if you've got some drive and some energy to get it off the ground, drop me an email. I want to hear about it. All right, thanks, guys.